Today I'm making homemade Pop-Tarts. What flavor? MD 2020 Blue Raspberry. That's right, MD 2020 Blue Raspberry in a pastry. Just as nature and Mad Dog intended. Step 1, let's reduce our MD 2020 so we can make that filling. In a pot, on high heat, get it reducing. A little bit of hairspray, a little bit of sugar. We're gonna reduce this until the liquid is less than half of what we put in the pot, like the Kool-Aid Man's sweat, if he was running a meth lab. Time to make the pastry crust. Butter and flour, a little bit of sugar and salt, and a little bit of water to just bind it together. First step, butter, cut into cubes. Set this in the freezer to chill for just a few minutes. Let's check in on the MD 2020 and see how it's reducing. Doing great, gonna crank up the heat to really get it going. Time to blend the butter into the flour. It's a little chunky, but that's all right. The water is going to help smooth it out. Now we're going to add a little bit of ice water to bring it all together. Boy, Pop-Tarts really brings me back to middle school. And MD 2020 brings me back to high school. So bring them all together, whew, full circle. All right, we're gonna let the pastry just sit in the fridge and rest for a few minutes while we get our filling for the MD 2020 nice and thick. So there's a ton of sugar in the MD 2020, obviously, and we've reduced it down, but it's still gonna be very watery. So one thing we need to do is thicken it up so it can become a filling. Easy way to do that, cornstarch and water. Yeah. Now it's time to preheat the oven. I'm gonna set it for 375. While the oven is preheating, time to roll out the pastry and make the actual Pop-Tarts. You don't want it too thin because the filling is going to get pretty hot as it bakes in the oven. But you don't want it too thick because you want it to cook all the way through. Time to cut the pastry and get ready for the filling. I'm going to do the standard rectangle shape. And now here's the MD 2020 Pop-Tart filling. Blue raspberry. Ooh. And I'm wetting the edges of the pastry. That way it creates a perfect seal when I put the top layer on. Trying to get some air out. So it looks a little bulbous right now. I'm gonna flatten it. That helps me get the air out and get to the side. Now I'm gonna use my fork to crimp the edges. Just the way the robots do it at the Kellogg factory. Let's finish the remaining Pop-Tarts. Crimping the edges. Last thing we're gonna do, a bit of an egg wash on top of the Pop-Tarts to give it that nice shine. All right, into the oven. Now it's time to make our frosting for the Pop-Tarts. I'm gonna use confectionery sugar, food coloring, heavy whipping cream, and a little dash of MD 2020 Blue Raspberry. Now you might have a pastry piping bag. If you don't, just do what I do. Take a Ziploc bag and cut a tiny little hole on the corner. Look at that. It's beautiful. MD 2020 frosting. Perfect. Here we go. Pulling these beautiful Pop-Tarts out. Ooh. Yes. This looks like a perfect little Pop-Tart. I'm so excited. I threw a little green into the frosting bag. Try to match the MD 2020 Blue Raspberry. While I'm waiting for these to cool, let's have a little sip of MD 2020 Blue Raspberry. Ooh, takes me back under the bleachers, hiding out from Coach Renton. Also reminds me of that stint in juvie. My father did not bail me out over the weekend. He said, let him stay and learn, and I stayed for 2 weeks because he did end up forgetting about me. And while we're waiting for these to cool, how good do these look? I mean, I am so excited. We have come up with a wonderful, beautiful filling based on Blue Raspberry MD 2020. Pop-Tarts look great. Egg wash did okay, and I've got the frosting to put right on top. I can't wait. Let's get to piping. Bing! All right. Well, it was MD 2020, and now it's MD, which is what happens to your brain after drinking MD 2020. Perfect. You guys gotta try this. So good. You absolutely have to make this at home. The filling is sour, sweet, super flavorful with the little pastry and the frosting. It all blends together. Definitely a very sweet treat, but very, very good. Next dinner party, you got some friends that haven't grown up? Make a batch of MD 2020 Pop-Tarts. That's what you're bringing. This with a frittata, a mimosa, you got yourself one hell of a Sunday brunch. So this was my first time trying something like this, boozy recipes. If you guys enjoyed it, leave a comment below and maybe I'll come up with some more.